On February 26, 1972, at 7:50 in the morning, a heavy equipment operator named Denny Gibson was standing on the crest of a coal waste dam in Logan County, West Virginia. The ground under his boots felt like mush. Water was oozing through the surface. Large cracks ran across the downstream face. Gibson had been running dozers and hauling equipment on these mountains his entire career. He knew bad ground when he stood on it. What nobody knew was that the dam he was standing on had been designed on a single napkin sketch 4 years earlier. No engineer had ever touched it. 10 minutes later, 132 million gallons came through that wall. The dam sat at the head of a narrow hollow called Buffalo Creek. Below it, stretched out along 17 miles of valley floor, 16 small coal towns held about 5,000 people. Most of them were still asleep. But to understand why that dam existed at all, we need to talk about what coal mining does to water. Every ton of coal that comes out of a West Virginia mine produces waste: rock, slag, chemical slurry. The cheapest way to get rid of it is to dump it across a creek and let the liquid settle behind the pile. That is exactly what the Pittston Coal Company's subsidiary Buffalo Mining had been doing on the middle fork of Buffalo Creek since 1960. They built 3 dams in sequence, each one sitting on top of the last one's accumulated sludge. Dam number 1 was started in May of 1960. Dam number 2 went up in 1966. Dam number 3, the one Gibson stood on, was begun in May of 1968 from a sketch drawn 2 months earlier by the company's vice president of operations, a man named Steve Dasovich. That sketch was the only design document that ever existed. Dasovich later testified under oath that he would not even begin to be able to engineer a thing like that. And yet his sketch became a dam holding 132 million gallons of black water above 16 towns. The construction method was simple. 30-ton dump trucks hauled coal refuse from the preparation plant and backed up to the edge. They dumped piles 4 to 7 feet high. Bulldozers graded those piles into lifts 2 to 4 feet thick, no compaction, no core wall, no filter layer, no drainage. The only spillway was a single 24-inch steel pipe buried 7 feet below the crest. That pipe could handle about 10 cubic feet per second. The actual storm inflow the night before the collapse was estimated at 70 cubic feet per second, 7 times what the pipe could carry. Foundation was worse than the dam itself. Post-failure drilling found 40 to 100 feet of unconsolidated coal slurry underneath dam number 3. Only the abutments touched bedrock. The dam was sitting on pudding. People tried to stop this. A housewife named Pearl Woodrum from the town of Saunders, the first community below the dam, wrote a letter to the governor on February 5, 1968. "If you do not do something," she wrote, "we are all going to be washed away." That letter triggered a state inspection. The inspectors flagged the spillway on dam number 2, but concluded there was no danger. The case was forwarded to the Logan County prosecutor. He took no action. In February of 1971, almost exactly 1 year before the collapse, the left abutment of dam number 3 slumped 150 feet wide and 20 to 30 feet deep. Black water was observed boiling up into the pool below, which is a textbook sign of foundation piping. Pittston's response was to dump more refuse on top of it and keep going. If you want to see what happened when 132 million gallons of coal slurry hit 16 towns in a West Virginia hollow, hit like now. Like and subscribe, because what comes next is one of the most preventable disasters in American industrial history. In July of 1971, Pittston's Vice President of Industrial Engineering received a booklet from the British National Coal Board called Spoil Heaps and Lagoons. It had been written after the 1966 Aberfan disaster in Wales, where a coal tip collapsed and killed 144 people, most of them children. The booklet explicitly warned of future Aberfan-type failures at coal waste dams. Pittston filed it. In December of 1970, a Pittston employee had drafted an internal memorandum warning that federal regulations forbade impounding water behind refuse pile dams. He was told not to distribute it. That memo was finally circulated on February 28, 1972. 2 days after the dam broke, 4 days before the collapse, a federal mine inspector and Buffalo Mining's own safety engineer inspected all 3 dams together. They rated them satisfactory. On the night of February 25th, heavy rain pushed the pool behind Dam Number 3 to within inches of the crest. At 6 a.m. on the 26th, Dasovich himself drove up to inspect. He saw cracks near the left abutment. He saw water boiling up through the surface like a bridge under heavy traffic. He was not alarmed. At 6:15 a.m., he met a Logan County deputy sheriff near Lorado Grade School, and he told the deputy that the dam looked all right and that they were going to do a little work on it. He sent the deputy away. He drove out of the valley. At 7:59 a.m., Dam Number 3 failed. The breach cut diagonally across the right side. Within seconds, the water overtopped Dam Number 2 on both sides. Dam Number 1 had its clear water dike breach on the right. 3 dams were gone in under a minute. Then something happened that almost nobody talks about. The floodwater hit a coal refuse bank at the base of the hollow that had been burning for months. When 132 million gallons of black water made contact with red-hot coal and coke, 3 or 4 steam explosions detonated in sequence. Witnesses described mushroom clouds of ash shooting into the sky. One man said it looked like an atomic bomb. This is the kind of story that disappears if nobody watches it. Like and subscribe so we can keep telling the ones that matter. The wave dropped 250 feet in elevation over the first mile. It rose 37 feet up the opposite valley wall at the breach. USGS measured its average speed at 5 miles per hour over the full 17-mile run, but refined modeling puts the initial velocity through the first 3 miles at closer to 14 miles per hour. It reached the town of Man at the mouth of the creek at 11 in the morning. That meant 3 hours to travel 17 miles. The first community it hit was Saunders, Pearl Woodrum's town, the woman who had written the letter 4 years earlier. Saunders was erased. 18 people died. The town was never rebuilt. Lundale lost 52 people. Lorado lost 21. Across all 16 communities, 125 people died before noon. Over 1,000 were injured. 4,000 were left homeless. 507 houses were destroyed. 1,000 cars and trucks were gone. The coal miners did not wait for the National Guard. Several bulldozer operators went to the company job sites and took heavy equipment on their own. Deep into the night, they worked to build makeshift roads so rescuers could reach the hollow at daybreak. At the washed-out Stowe Bridge, the bulldozers built a temporary crossing over the creek. No one gave them permission. No one told them to stop. A 9-month-old baby named Carrie Chad Albright was in the town of Lorado when the water came. His 18-year-old brother Stephen spotted the wall of black water. Their mother Sylvia ran from the house carrying Carrie. Just before the wave hit, she threw the baby as far as she could up an embankment. Sylvia and Stephen died. A preacher and his son found what they thought was a doll's leg sticking out of the mud 20 to 30 minutes later. They pulled Carrie out and cleared the muck from his mouth. He gasped. Carrie's father Robert never returned to the mines, never remarried, and raised Carrie alone. Robert died of black lung and throat cancer in 2000. Carrie is alive today. He lives in Brooklyn, New York. Pittston's corporate office in New York issued a press statement calling the flood an act of God. The dam they said, was incapable of holding the water God poured into it. A woman at a protest meeting in Acoville answered that line better than any lawyer could. "I have lived up at the top of the hollow for a long time," she said, "and I ain't never seen God up there, driving no bulldozer dumping slate on that dam." A young attorney named Gerald Stern at the Washington firm Arnold & Porter filed suit on behalf of 625 adult survivors seeking $64 million. His legal innovation was a category he called psychic impairment, what we now call PTSD. In 1974, Pittston settled for $13.5 million. That works out to roughly $13,500 per survivor for losing their families, their homes, and their minds. Nobody at Pittston went to jail. The Logan County prosecutor explained that there was no way to put a corporation in jail. West Virginia sued Pittston for $100 million. 3 days before leaving office in January 1977, Governor Arch Moore signed a settlement accepting $1 million. He later went to federal prison for unrelated corruption. The Army Corps of Engineers billed the state $3.7 million for cleanup. Moore kept the invoices confidential and never paid them. West Virginia taxpayers settled the bill in 1989 for $9.5 million with interest. Nearly 10 times the settlement Moore had accepted from Pittston. In 2003, Pittston officially renamed itself the Brink's Company. The corporation responsible for 125 deaths quietly became an armored car company. No public connection to coal, no public connection to Buffalo Creek. But here is what should keep you up at night. 18 miles northwest of Beckley, West Virginia, the Brushy Fork impoundment holds 8.2 billion gallons of coal slurry. It is permitted up to 9 billion gallons. Its dam stands over 900 feet tall. That is taller than the Hoover Dam. It was designed by the same engineering firm that designed the Martin County coal impoundment in Kentucky, which failed in October 2000 and released 306 million gallons. Massey Energy, the operator, called that spill an act of God, too. Brushy Fork is still there, still active, every single day. If you have ever worked in coal country or lived near an impoundment, we want to hear your story. Tell us in the comments, like and subscribe for more stories the industry remembers but never recorded. And if this one hit you the way it hit us, share it with someone who needs to hear it.